Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with our second phase of building the Estes Loadstar II. In the intervening time, I have finished processing all the fins here, so they are sanded and rounded and all that. And I also took the time to cut out the template here and mark off where the fins are going to be attached to this particular stage. I actually did the same to the upper stage as well. So this is taken care of. And the first and main goal today is going to be to attach the fins. All right, so this is a very small tube. Just, compared to the fins, it's just, there's not a lot of space here. So I don't know if that's going to make this easier or more difficult, but it is something to be aware of. Now, the fins are going to be attached at a point 5/8 of an inch from the rear end of the tube. Now, the tube, of course, doesn't have any preferences to what's the front, what's the back at this point, but I am going to mark 5/8 of an inch on all the lines. Now, I actually added one for the launch lug, so I don't want that. That was unnecessary, but I was marking fins, and it just I marked all the lines. And it's just how it went. Better to overmark than undermark, because I can just ignore that. All right, so there's 5/8 on that line. Here's 5/8 on this line. And there's 5/8 on that line. Okay. Now, of course, in all likelihood, am I going to get them exactly at 5/8 on each one? Are those lines all perfectly accurate? Probably not. But I really do want this to be as close as possible, because if they're all not back at the exact same point, that's going to have some negative impacts on stability, because if they're all not starting at the same place, then they're all not beginning at the same place either, which would mean that I would have one fin slightly forward of everything else, and that would probably end up throwing off stability a bit. All right, so we're going with the 2 layers of glue approach, because this is probably the weakest point of the entire rocket. We want it to be as strong as possible, so 2 layers of glue here, and then we'll put fillets on, although that probably is not going to happen in this particular video just because of time requirements and things. Also, I want the glue to set, and that's not going to happen in this particular video. Okay. The nozzle's clogged. That's fun. There we go. That should help. Should, but didn't. Poor timing. There we go. This is a little on the time-sensitive side of things here. All right. Actually got more glue than I really wanted, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to do my best to line things up. This is, again, I like to start at the back and then kind of roll it forward. Find that to be the easiest way to attach the fin. I'm just going to hold it here till about 20 seconds, and then if I need to adjust, I will. I'm pretty sure that I need to scoot it at least this way a little bit. Now, the good news about this is it's such a short body tube that it's the stability issues of it just sitting there shouldn't be as big of a deal as if it's a long body tube and I have it like floating off the ground. All right. This is a big fin though, so it is fairly heavy, and it will want to flop over if I'm not careful. All right. It looks well centered at both the front and the back. I'm going to try to smooth the glue out here. Actually, it isn't very much, which is good, but I mean, there's some, and it is somewhat inconsistent. It's not great. Just checking basic alignment now, looking kind of down the barrel of the thing. That looks pretty good. And yeah, I am going to have to put it on something to keep it from flopping over. This should probably work, maybe. And it's obviously going to want to pull, but all right, that'll have to do for now. Good news is, once the other fins are on, that should counteract things and it shouldn't be as big of a deal. Okay. I do want to go through this as quickly as possible while still doing a good job and taking the time for some of the glue to set, because I have to check for alignment. And I would very much like to check for alignment before the glue hardens completely, because once it's totally set, then of course nothing else is going on with this. By the way, the glue that I'm using here is, so there's a variety of formulations of this particular kind of glue. This one is it's a fast setting variant. It gets tacky faster. That's why I've chosen this one. There are other ones that purposely take longer to tack, but that really would not be very helpful for this purpose. So this glue I want because it is faster setting. I guess it's not really that fast. It's not like CA glue that, you look at that stuff funny and it's set. All right, so this is going to be a little bit trickier. I can't put it on the ground because the first fin would have flopped over already. So I think what I'm going to try to do here is do this. I don't like the thought about doing it vertically. The glue seems to have tacked well enough that it's not going to flop off here. And I say that and it'll probably immediately flop off. But fingers crossed on that one. And I've rolled this forward. Again, hold it for about 20 seconds. And then check for my alignment and mop up any excess glue. Yeah, the risk here, of course, is that the first fin will flop over while I have it misaligned. Holding it vertically avoids that. So once I'm pretty confident where this fin ought to be, then I rotated it back up to vertical. All right, checking alignment. Front looks good. Back looks, yeah, it's falling over. That's not great. Okay. Still need to hold it a bit longer, I guess, because it was not quite set up there, as you could see, because it flopped over. It's the risk. The risk of using a glue that doesn't a glue that does that. Well, that stinks, because I'm going to have to basically start from scratch here. Now, I'm not going to reapply the glue, but apparently, this is what happens when you don't give yourself enough time for the glue to set. You start checking alignment and things before everything is actually ready. And yes, I am in a bit of a rush because I want to be able to align this before the glue is completely dry in that first fin, but can't be in that big of a rush. All right, I still do not trust this whatsoever. And I really shouldn't, because it just flopped off again. All right, I'm just going to have to hold this down vertically like this and just squeeze and hold. This may require another bit of glue, which would stink, because the more glue, the longer it takes to dry, and there's a bit of a glue mess on the tube now. I should be able to mop most of it up, but not really pleased with myself right here. More patience. Take your time when you do this. All right, I am still very much not convinced about this at all, but I'm going to very carefully check alignments. Alignments look pretty good. All right, so let's prop it back up. upside down, maybe? I'm looking for stability here. I really don't want it flopping over. I prefer not to even lean. All right, I can live with that. That should be all right. All right, third fin. Now I am going to let this glue set a bit more than I would normally, because that last fin that I did obviously is not strong, and giving it a couple minutes here will make this whole process easier, because first fin I did, apparently I gave myself plenty of time and did a good job. This one, second one, maybe not so much. So better safe than sorry here. Incidentally, the next step is to install the motor mount, which is basically dry at this point. I put fillets on it in between videos, so it should be okay to install, but I don't think I'm going to mess with it. Honestly, I think this video is going to end when I attach the last fin here, and then this is going to dry. I'm going to check the alignment. It's going to dry. It's going to dry completely, and then I can go messing with installing the launch or the motor, not the motor mount, because otherwise bad things can happen. This is really the short version, because sometimes you have to be a little rough with the motor mount to attach it, and I really don't need to jostle the fins or anything else about the body tube. All right, I'm going to let this tack up a little bit too before I try to attach it. So that's probably going to be good for everything, this fin, and more importantly, the other one that has already decided it isn't interested in being terribly stable. All right. Fingers crossed that this doesn't instantly flop off. This is about as much torque as you're going to get on it when it's parallel with the ground, so it seems reasonably stable. Let's cross fingers and hope nothing dumb happens. Okay. Did not apply that particularly well. Okay. I'm going to hold this for a good, I don't know, the better part of a minute here. So once the structural part of this is done, this will basically be finished. Now, the booster stage here, this part is very, very simple. It's got a motor in it. When the motor burns, it just falls off. The only thing that's really connecting the first stage and the second stage, well, there's two things. One is there's going to be a bit of a friction fit between them. And the other thing is there's going to be a bit of clear tape taping the two motors together. So not much holds them together. When the first stage burns out and the ejection charge fires, the ejection charge is going to burn through the clear tape. So that connection will be gone. And the friction fit, well, the second stage kicking off will hopefully detach that first stage, which is they'll just push apart. So that is what's going to happen with this. And then this will just flutter back to Earth. That actually could be potentially a failure point, so it could be a rough landing, because there's no parachute or streamer or anything on this. It's just going to tumble. It is terribly unaerodynamic at that point, so it usually tumbles pretty slowly, but still it is something to be aware of. All right, time for some adjustments. This needs to be adjusted a bit at the front end. Okay, maybe a little more. All right, the back. That looks good. Now, there is a good amount of glue. I'm going to try to wipe off. And it was a little smeared on this side. Okay, now, is this going to stand up by itself? Okay, I really don't want this resting on the fins itself, but it looks like that's just how it's going to have to be. It's ever so slightly resting on the fins. Now, the last thing that we're going to do here is check for alignment. Now, in the instructions, there is this shadow print here. And this is the alignment guide. This is actually, I think, more intended for the second stage than the first, but it's 3 fins. They should be at 120-degree angles, regardless of how big they are. All right, so I am centering the tube, and now I'm going to check. I'd probably help if I actually have the tube centered reasonably well. Okay. Oh, that's bad. I pushed too hard and felt like one of them gave out. Yep, that one did. I think that's the weak fin, or it might be the one I just did. That's bad. I should have done this upside down and I would have avoided this problem entirely. So yeah, when you do it upside down. You won't get as good a view, but you also won't crack off what were otherwise stable fins. All right, so centering things up, checking the alignment against the drawing. All right, 2 of these are pretty good. This one is like not close at all. In fact, oh, well, I don't have it centered on the diagram either, but that's a different problem. The circle doesn't feel like it really matches up right. And, wow, either I didn't draw my lines correctly when I extended this, or the paper is bent, obviously, because it's been folded, but yeah, there's some alignment issues here. All right, I'm just tapping all these fins to try to get them in line with the drawings. Now, some of them are tacked up enough that they're fighting back whenever I do that, which is mildly annoying, but not terribly surprising. All right, one last quick assessment here, and it doesn't hurt to rotate this every once in a while to make sure that you don't have like one fin that's really off kilter compared to where everything else ought to be. All right, I'm good with this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave it here. So you probably can't see this. In fact, I'm sure you can't. My particular cutting mat here has a bunch of different angle measurements built into it. It's down here, so it's just off right down here. So I can actually check the angle measurements of the fins with this as well. So I'm actually going to do that. Not that I don't trust the good people at Estes to print something properly, but given the paper has been, crinkled and folded purposefully, it's nice to have an independent third source. All right, so again, the next step is to put this in there, but I'm not going to do this until these are set. Yeah. All right, this seems like as good a place as any to stop for now. I'll just pick it up next time, installing the motor mount right in there, and that'll be it for the booster. So thanks for watching. I'll see you then.